Okay, once again, my name is Amy. I'm the president of the Jeffco PTA. Thank you for joining us tonight for our bylaws training. I do have a few orders of business to conduct with the board here before we begin, so please just bear with us. The first thing is our minutes from the January meeting. And I am going to share my screen with you. I had them pulled up here. Hold on. Okay, sorry. That's not what I want to share. Did everybody receive the minutes? Diana sent them to us on January 31st. Is there anything you would like to modify or change from those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Approved by consensus? Thank you. The next thing, this I do have prepared, is our budget. And did that just disappear on me now that I... Oh, come on. I had the budget all ready to go for you too. Hold on one
Sorry
second.
about that, Amy.
Oh, no, it's not you, Chandra. It's me. I had it pulled up and I had it ready to go here. Sec. Right.
Amy, I can share it if you want. I just pulled it up.
I've got it right here. Thank you. Okay, so
yeah, this one's updated from the one I'd send out to the rest of the board. So I do want to explain up top, we've got some outstanding expenses and outstanding deposits. So we do have some outstanding deposits, $775 worth. So that will be going to the Jeffco PTA Scholarship Fund. 500 from one donor, 225 earned it, or sorry, 250 earned it Pigging Out, our eating fundraiser, and then another $25 from another donor. So that will get us, I think, close to the $1,000 total once those go through. And then outstanding expenses, we've got $31.25. It's the check we wrote to the Colorado PTA for four more members. I think that's right. 4 or 5. We're just waiting for them to deposit. Thank you. I'm like, my brain's not working. So we're just waiting for them to deposit that. We've made that money increase this month. Outcoming debts, we had our MailChimp, the typical things. We had a big payment for the reflections, and we did get a large check from the Colorado PTA as well for the Jeffco membership, $1 for every member in Jeffco. So the scholarship right there at $23,000, that will increase to nearly $1,000 once those deposits go through. So,
and just to give you some perspective on that $5,827, there are just over 12,000 members in all of Colorado PTA total, and we have over 5,000 in Jeffco alone. So we have almost half the members in the state right here.
That's amazing.
So, that's pretty cool. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the budget here? We have nothing to add, nothing to vote on this time around. Raise your hand if you. All right, everybody good? Okay. The next thing, this is for the board. This is a vote. So we've been asked by the JCEA if we would like to support their Good News Breakfast. This is an ongoing thing for the last 34 years. It's $200 for a table for 8. We could gift people from units if we wanted to send them to this. So that's something to vote on here if we want to support that. Would anybody like to make a motion for or against?
What is
And
the good news breakfast?
the good news breakfast is, I wish Brooke or Sherry were here to describe it.
Amy, I've actually been there lots of times.
Okay,
So in the past, Good News Breakfast, it was a coalition that used to come together, a whole bunch of different people, faith leaders, school district used to be involved in it, JCA was involved in it, and then other area volunteers, you know, to put it together. They started it up as a nonprofit, and they have this. They used to do the breakfast. I know it's later this year, but they used to do it at 6:59 a.m. in the morning. They had speakers, they, you know, would give awards and those kind of things. Jeffco PTA stopped sponsoring it a while back, I'll tell you, not because it wasn't a good thing. We didn't have the funds to be able to run our mission, plus to be able to sponsor it, but we still would send a few people from Jeffco PTA to go to the breakfast, you know, to have a presence. Over COVID, the organization sort of fell apart. And yeah, so it very much fell apart and it didn't happen. It, you know, got canceled during COVID, and then the volunteers all just kind of went away. And JCA, I believe, is trying to bring that back. I don't know who's involved in the coalition anymore because there's nothing on the website about anybody besides JCEA. So, you know, I mean, does that help answer, Angela, what it is? It started actually just after Columbine. I think 2 years after Columbine was away because everything was so negative in the community, to try to bring the community back together. So that started, I know it's later in the morning now. So most of the time educators can't go to those because they're already working. But other community members and faith leaders would go. Does it help?
Yes, thank you.
so Brooke is working hard to bring it back. And she asked for if we would like to sponsor and have a table there. So would anybody like to make a motion to make that happen?
I'll move that we support the Good News JCEA breakfast for 200, what was it, $250? Sorry,
$200 for a table of 8.
$200. Perfect, $200. Should have been a better listener, sorry.
Thank you, Darcy.
I second it.
Jen seconds it. All in favor? Show of hands. Any opposed? Wonderful, thank you. And then Angela, if you have just a quick reflections update for us.
Let's see, reflections. We had 11 gold winners that'll be going on to national judging, which was awesome. And we had 20 silver winners, which I think is pretty good considering I think we had like 140 something entries. So I feel like that's a good turnout. And I wanted to mention Wilmot Elementary had 1 gold winner and 4 silver winners. They were the single school that had that many winners. So congratulations to Wilmot. That's awesome. And I think that's it for reflections. They're just getting ready to do the award ceremony for state next weekend.
Okay. And then Darcy and Jen, anything for scholarships?
Sure. So Chandra said that money came in from Picking Out, so that's exciting. We've had some other donations for scholarships. We love for local units to donate if they can. It's hard for a local unit to like gather the whole big amount of money to make a scholarship, but if they donate to ours, that's a good way that we can reach all the kids in Jeffco Public Schools. We've had 17 kids apply so far for the scholarship, so that's good. I've followed up. There's been a couple of questions about some different things, mostly from high school counselors that were clarifying some things to pass along. And so one thing that we made a change on the committee, just that there was in the past, students had to be a member of PTA. We took that out because for a lot of our kids, that $10 was a pretty big aspect to like stepping over that hurdle. And I'm not going to tell you about the kid or where he's from, but just know that like there's some kids out there that really, really need this. Yeah, Artie turned in his things to us, and it was just so well done. So excited to already get moving on that. If you're interested in helping us to read scholarship essays and then watch the coordinating video that goes with us, there's a rubric. It's really easy to help them like to grade through them. Let us know, let Jen or I know, and we will get you on the list. They have until March 31st, so still a while, but then we have kind of a short turnaround window because most schools need to know by April 15th if their students have won those awards, so that they can get them for high school graduation booklets that have to be printed sooner rather than later. So that's
Okay.
all. Unless there's any questions.
Awesome. And I've been collecting items for the silent auction too that we're doing in partnership with JCEA. I've had a lot of fun items roll in already from my side and also from Brooke's side. So people are donating things, and I've got gift cards, and I've got a Bear Creek pass, and I've got some theater tickets from a couple different places. And so I should have a decent auction amount, and we'll see what comes from that. But as it stands right now, we can give away 3 $1,000 scholarships.
Yay.
Yes.
Quick
And
question. When is the silent auction?
the silent auction I'm going to launch on March 22nd, and it's going to go till Sunday the 31st. So we'll know by that day how much money we have. I'll close it then, and we'll have, we'll split it with JCEA, and we'll be able to provide maybe another $500 scholarship somewhere. So there's that. And then Lori, would you like to update us on health, wellness, and safety?
Sure. Thanks, Amy. The big push right now, many of you may have heard, is for the Healthy School Meals for All. That is a program that we supported, Jeffco PTA, and thank you, Amy, for signing the organization or the association onto a special appeal to the legislators. A fact sheet put out by Hunger Free Colorado. Hunger Free has done just a superb job in the beginning organization and promoting and advocating. And as probably most of you have heard, all eligible school districts are participating. And in fact, the participation is so high that there is a significant budget shortfall. And the concerning aspect of that is the shortfall then would impact the second year of the program, which incorporates the aspects that would be to buy fresh food locally, to help in the preparation, do some technical assistance to help in procuring the food as well as preparing it, and getting input from parents, which is so important, I think, and the students as well. And also increase the salaries of the cafeteria staff, which desperately needs to be done. So these are really important aspects of the program. So we are trying our best to advocate, and the Joint Budget Committee is hearing the appeal for more funds tomorrow. I could send you, there's a sort of a last minute Hunger Free Colorado email that does have a link for parents advocacy. And we've already done our organizational advocacy, but I could send that to you, Amy, if you want to send that out to as many people as possible, because I think hearing from parents is really important. And it's a letter that individuals can easily sign on to. It's a very user-friendly advocacy. So that's great. I'll send that to you right after the meeting. Thank you. So that's the main issue with health, wellness, and safety. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And then the last item is just Grub Club. Brooke and the JCEA asked me to push that out to you. Angela did get the link and will forward it to the units today and just remind everybody what the schools in their area are collecting on behalf of Grub Club. And when that time comes around, I believe it's March 8th is the deadline. The JCEA has asked for our help in just kind of support sorting and organizing those donations. So I will let you know when that comes around. And then here we have Shauna Fritzler. Shauna is our past president, and she is our bylaws chairperson, and she is going to give you this tutorial here. So she's going to share her screen. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to throw your hand up or drop them into the chat, and I will be monitoring the chat. So go ahead. Take it.
All right, thank you. So just a reminder, if anybody has come in new and you haven't put your name in the chat for attendance, please do that for Diana. So thank you very much. So we always start off, well, all of our trainings with that: be accountable, be transparent, and be diligent in everything that you're doing. A lot of people get pretty scared about bylaws and it's really not going to be that bad. I promise you. I can help you through it. Your AAVPs can also help you through it. PTA is a real business. That's what we're going to do. We're going to cover parliamentary law, bylaws overview, bylaws basics, common issues, and a bylaws review process. And of course, PTA bylaws is the most fun you'll ever have, and you can't tell. So, but I wore my Cheers shirt for you guys though, because it's so fun. Our mission. So always start off with the mission and the values when we start doing these things. What PTA is about: collaboration, commitment, diversity, respect, accountability. And again, we go back to that children. So everything we do, children are at our center. They are the governing rules of your association, and they include your local unit name. Some people might get confused. They see Colorado Congress of something or, other, or there's the Adams PTA, Betty Adams PTA. So our names are a little bit different, the legal name versus sometimes what we call them. So, but your legal name is in there. The officers that you will have are defined in there. Standing and special committees are defined in there. When you'll have your meetings, what a quorum is, what the nominations, elections, and vacancies, how all those happens, and how you take care of your finances. So they are a crucial document. You are a legal entity, and they are a legally binding document. So we want to stick with our bylaws as closely as we possibly can. Ideally, we're 100% in alignment with our bylaws all the time. These are different, of course, than Robert's rules. So Robert's rules of order, your bylaws will always supersede Robert's rules. So these are really very important. They are rules that cannot be changed unless we follow the process to actually amend them, and they cannot be suspended. We can't just decide to not follow them. So Jeffco PTA is going to be a good example for you in this. So if you remember the January newsletter, and the February newsletter that we sent out for you, we sent out our bylaws link. So on the changes that we're getting ready to make, because just like every local unit, we are doing the same thing. There's requirements that we have to make to our bylaws that are deemed per Colorado PTA and National PTA. We don't get a choice in those because we're all chartered entities under National PTA. But you do have some things that you decide. Now, who gets a copy? This always gets very interesting. Your executive board or your board of directors gets a copy of those bylaws. Everybody should have them. Everybody should review them, and you should review them yearly. Now, any member, upon request, may review a copy of the bylaws. If somebody asks, maybe they're causing you problems or they're upset about something, they don't get a copy of it. So you review it in front of them because there is proprietary information in there. Those bylaws are put together originally by attorneys. So where those have been paid for. We have other organizations who have tried to steal them and have stolen them. They are proprietary information. So we don't just give those out. We also do not post them to our website. This is for your board or executive committee to have, and or whichever you have in your, that's defined too. When are you going to update them? Always review them annually. So there is not a problem with making changes annually. You have to do it appropriately, of course. Colorado PTA requires you to do it every 3 years. Now, parliamentary law is a little different. So that's the rules of the game. So the order, how we're going to conduct our business, one business item at a time. So we don't all show up. And even though I love everybody here on this call, we can't all just start yelling at Amy and want to bring up our different things. We have an agenda. We follow the agenda. If I have something new to add, I need to ask Amy during new business and ask her to throw something else out there so that I wanted to bring up, because I don't know, I come up with some really exciting idea that I think that we should try, and then we need to discuss it. Equal opportunity. This is a chance, it says change for everybody to participate. I'm sorry, I missed a C. Should be a chance for everybody to participate. Everyone is a member of your PTA. The business is owned by your membership. So we want to give everyone a chance to participate. The justice, fairness to all. Everybody understands what's going on. They may not always like it. So, but we do want to be fair to people, and we don't ever use our bylaws or our parliamentary laws to hurt another person. So this keeps our PTA meetings calm, even when we disagree. And it's a right of the minority to be heard if they want to speak up during discussion. And let's just use a Good News Breakfast as an example. Let's say, you know, somebody in there, you know, when we did a motion, and then there was a second, and then if you go into discussion, before then, is everybody okay with doing it? Well, somebody could have popped up and I could have said, no, I don't want to, you know, spend $200 on that. I think our $200 should go to whatever. I get to be heard, but now you see the majority voted, yes, we wanted to do it. Even though I still do get to be heard. That's important. Robert's Rules is on the 12th edition. They're old editions. But again, make sure you note here, your bylaws take precedent over Robert's Rules. Now, so everybody remembers Mean Girls, right? So this is a fun one. National PTA really didn't like it when this movie came out. Sometimes PTA is highlighted in a really good way, and sometimes PTA is highlighted in a not so great way. In this particular movie, so we had your controlling board members, so who were controlling of the PTA forever. And when we're having our bake sale and everything needs to be gluten-free and nut-free and allergy-free, and we're doing all these other things, or these are the ingredients you can do, and you can't go shopping and just buy cookies. You have to make them from scratch. So, but then we need savory treats, so they set all the specifications and didn't let their membership really have anything to do. So the other fun girls who end up winning PTA president and the rest of the board ended up succeeding because everybody was tired about being told what they had to do. So, and being scared when they dropped their kids off in the morning. So what do we need to start? First step, get the current template. This is one of the most common mistakes. People start taking their old bylaws and they just start making the changes. They don't see the new template. They don't see the notes that were in the original template to follow through, and they just start making changes. And then they're not in compliance anyway. So you've done all that work to redo something and it won't be accepted because you didn't use the new current template. So you have to be in good standing. So you have to submit your membership dues. You have to do your 990, submit proof. You have to do your Secretary of State filing if that's applicable to you. Everything has to be submitted. And then you get your the template from your AAVP traditionally. So you can also get it from Colorado PTA at the office at Colorado PTA if you're in compliance there too. Now, second step, you need a copy of your current bylaws. And if you don't already have those, contact your AAVP or Amy or Colorado PTA to get a copy of those so you can make sure you're looking at the most current bylaws, because that's what you're going to need to make changes to both documents. It's going to be really helpful if whoever is somebody who's a personality who is very organized. So you're going to sit down, get yourself a Starbucks, some caffeine to, you know, pump you up, and you're going to sit down and go through these bylaws, and it's going to take you a few hours. But it really isn't that hard. It's just going to be a little bit time consuming, and you're reading instructions. Now, if anybody's typing anything into the chat, I'm not paying attention to that right now. Feel free to unmute yourself and pop up, or, you know, Amy, if you want to read questions, if there's anything in there too, please go right ahead.
Andrea's asking, are we able to share the current template?
You should not share the current template, no. So it's a proprietary document, and you should get that from your AAVP to start out with. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. I'm just wondering if you're able to email it to me. I'm the secretary of the PTA at Carmelie Elementary School, and I just want to make sure that we're working off the most updated documentation.
Yeah,
such
so
that yeah,
do you know who your
Andrea?
AVP is?
yes.
Okay, just email them and they will give you the current template as long as you're in good standing.
Oh, wait, sorry, did you say, do I know who my AAVP is?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Andrea?
Angela Abeda is right here, and she
Okay.
is the Vice President of Outreach. She oversees all of our AAVPs, the articulation area vice presidents, and you're going to email her at aavp@jeffcopta.org, and then she can make sure you are in compliance, and then she can send you that template. Does that help?
It does. I just put it in the chat just in case anybody else needs that email address. Thank you so much for sharing.
I'll get
I
it to you
also
as soon as I
dropped
get your
Tracy
email.
Riley's email in there too, office@colorado.copta.org. Tracy Riley can get you that template from the Colorado PTA as well.
Okay, wonderful. Our president is very much on top of things, but I just want to make sure that we have the right forms.
I will tell you, it's very important for, crucial for both the secretary and the president. If you have a bylaws chair, and most local units don't, but if you do, you need to be experts in your bylaws. So read through them regularly, and follow the rules. So you don't ever want to be out of compliance, because if there is ever a dispute in your PTA and you call us at Jeffco PTA to come into your PTA to help walk you through things, if you've had violations of your bylaws, it's harder for us to be able to take care of you and defend you. Does that make sense too?
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
Perfect. But make good faith effort. That's what you're looking for always. Now the sections that you're going to see on that template with an asterisk are required. You may not change those. So sometimes it's Colorado PTA, sometimes it's National PTA, sometimes it's an IRS or Colorado statute that changes what cannot be deleted or amended. So don't change those at all. Start with the required changes. So when you're going from your template, and you take your old and you start with the required changes, just copy those over. And at the very end, you're going to take a look at the Roman numerals and stuff, because a whole bunch of those will change too. So, and I will tell you, the template that we use is a little wonky as far as spacing and those kind of things too. So I will tell you, I probably spent an additional few hours fixing that. So I'm also OCD and a perfectionist. So I had to make sure that those things are all, perfect before we change those. But
Thank you.
so start with those first. And then you're going to go through and take, okay, so it talks about our different officers, and our officers listed are different than what the template says. So you're currently going to be using what your existing approved bylaws say. So now you can make changes to that. But we're going to walk through how to do those changes. Just read the notes and the templates as you proceed. And again, it's really nice if you can just get yourself Starbucks or, Coke or whatever it is, or water if you're, a healthy person, and sit down and just, hammer through this. So for a few hours, undistracted, if your presidents, if your secretary is doing the work, whatever, reward them, take their kids to, for the afternoon so that they can get it done without interruptions. But you can do it. The common issues that we have going on here with most of our bylaws over the years. Dues changes. They're required dues to Colorado and National PTA. So you can't change those. And I think it's still the $6.25. Am I right? Ladies? Yeah, okay. So a portion of that is Colorado, a portion of it is National. National's been trying to raise the dues for, years and years. So when that happens, it'll be one of those automatic required changes. So you will automatically be required to change those dues. You don't get a choice in it if National ever votes to change the bylaws. So that's why it's so important for all of you to be involved in all of this. And Andrea and those of you who are local unit here, who do we have? Jennifer, Christina, Victoria, Abby, so delighted to have you all here today. And we'd love to have you engage more with Jeffco PTA too, because I will tell you, you will learn a ton in PTA that will benefit you years and years down the line. And I'm telling you that as someone who got involved in 2010. My daughter is sophomore in college now. And I just love PTA so much and I love these ladies so much that's why I'm still here. Bad penny, keep turning up. But you'll have to change those. You don't get a choice. But now sometimes we have PTAs who will create all different kinds of structures of dues. Now, you really don't want to use your membership as a fundraising strategy. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it's a legal entity. The membership owns the business, the legal business, and we want one membership for one vote. Now, if you decide to offer family memberships, now we have to define family. So what if Angela and I here are just best buddies? So, and we decide we're going to join it as a family membership and we go and get a discount. So, well, who gets to vote? Has that been defined in your bylaws? If it's not legally defined in your bylaws, and Angela and I decide to wreak havoc for you guys, so your PTA unit, I'm going to tell you, you don't want to deal with me. And over the years, I've been involved in council and state PTA. I will tell you, it is a problem. And it comes up, and that's where a lot of the different fightings come from. Then we have had people say, well, they're not legally married, so they're just dating. So why are they allowed to have the family membership rate? So when we are, an actual married couple. And then we've gotten into fights where we have 2 moms, 2 dads. So where PTAs fight over those. So again, the recommendation from National PTA has always been 1 person, 1 vote. So do something else for your fundraising efforts. And we know you guys are doing just amazing things, and it's wonderful to have that. But if I sign up and I sign up for a family membership and it's a family of, 2 adults, or maybe it's a family of 4, I only have 3 people in my family, and I only give you my email address. I don't have power of attorney over my husband. So how in the world do I allow him to vote? So because you have to communicate directly with him, there's so many legal issues with that. Now, so just think through that one, and then also think through again those PTA values when you're putting that one together. Collaboration, commitment, diversity, respect, and accountability. We go back to that every single time. And again, I'm seeing numbers pop up in the chat, but I don't have the chat open. So if anybody wants to unmute, you are always welcome to just jump in and ask questions. Here's the next one on the common issues, term limits. So we have some PTAs have set their, we're just going to do 1-year terms. Okay. Now at the end of the year, I haven't found any volunteers for the PTA. Oops, the PTA is just going to have to go away because I wasn't really into it. And I didn't do the recruiting, and we just, we kind of got the PTA through the year, but we just want to go away. And PTAs end up being unsuccessful because of things like that. And ultimately, it hurts kids and it hurts the school. So we know that our schools that have PTAs have the most engaged parents, most engaged families, most active families. And we know that family engagement is the #1 factor that impacts our kids positively in their lives. So we want those PTAs to go on and on and on. So we would recommend on a regular basis that we try to do a 2-year term, because really when you're getting done with the first year, you're just finally learning all of the different PTA rules. It's not easy to run a nonprofit, and we recognize that. So it's very important that you give yourselves opportunity to succeed. Now, then you can also consider staggered terms. So I always recommend your president and your treasurer are the 2 busiest officers of your PTA. They do so much, and the success of the PTA is just crucial upon those 2 people being very engaged and active in the PTA. If you take away one of those legs of the stool, stool can't stand up. Absolutely not. But if you put the president and say the secretary on one term, and the vice president and the treasurer on another term, so one for even years, the other one for odd years, then you at least have some consistency in your business, so that it's not always 4 leaders, boom, are gone, and you have to start all over. So at the end of, this year, 2024, I'm going away. So, and Chandra's going away, but Amy and Diana are staying. I'm just using examples here because we have a whole bunch of vice president positions too. But the next year, Amy would go away, but I would still be here, and Chandra would still be here. So we have some consistency and knowledge about what has happened historically with our PTA. So those are really important, but it's a common issue that happens, and it's in a lot of different PTAs. You can redo that and vote and explain to your membership. Now, I will tell you too, there's also, in addition to the length of a term, there's a number of terms that's defined in there as well. And I will tell you, as a past local unit president, local unit treasurer, local unit council, person, after 4 years, if you do 2 terms of 2 years, after 4 years, you're kind of hanging by a thread by the end of your 4th year. So, you know, don't overwhelm yourselves either. And that's why it's important to try to get those transition plans for your PTA in place too. Adding extra standing positions and committees, because those are legally required versus your special positions and special committees that you can just appoint during a meeting. Oh, we had this really great idea. So, ooh, Angela, so will you run Spring Fling? Yes, please, that's great. So, or no, she doesn't want to this year. If we put it in a standing committee chair, we're legally required to fill every one of those positions. And if we can't fill those positions, and we know it's hard to find volunteers, so make sure you come to the March meeting where we will be doing that presentation about engagement, growing your PTA and growing your future leadership. So there's a lot of good information in there I pulled from when I worked for National PTA and gave this presentation to other states. So come to March if you want to learn that one. But add them as special committees. So good ideas, but maybe we won't have that committee every single year or be legally required to have it. I don't ever want to have you in violation of your bylaws if we can avoid it. So it's a common problem, we get it. Protect your PTA by appointing based on the available volunteers and not falling out of legal compliance. Again, we're a legal business and these are a legally binding document. If your bylaws, here's another big one. Years ago, I dealt with one PTA who had appointed a 14-member board. And they didn't agree on a whole bunch of things. So, and it ended up involving fights. And anytime they wanted to do something, they had a 14-member board who they had to go through to do anything. Thankfully, the new PTA president who came in was just overwhelmed and said, we can't fill all these positions. It had kind of been running as a club previously, and it was very much like the Bad Moms-esque kind of thing, where if you were accepted, you were allowed to be on the board. And if you didn't have the right address, they kind of made sure that you didn't get invited to volunteer or participate in things. Well, when they left and went on to their next middle school and high school, the PTA was in a lot of trouble because they were trying to fill 14 different positions on a board. So that really only is required to have 4. So that's really important. Avoid creating those problems for yourself. The special positions and committees can be appointed anytime, and they can be discontinued in a meeting at any time. So, and it can change year to year. So that's really important. Another one. When is your election meeting, and does it allow for the new board members to attend convention or, you know, the fall conference? That's really important to give them time, because here we have in April, Colorado PTA's convention coming up, and there's a lot of good training in there. So you're allowed to use your budget funds that you've raised to go and get these kind of trainings. Now, Jeffco PTA, love Jeffco PTA. That's why you all are my passion. We have always done that fall conference, and we have always done it free of charge. The very beginning, when I was first there, we would charge like a $10 fee, and we provided lunch and all those kind of things. But not everybody could, you know, it's not accessible for everybody. Not all PTAs are able to pay to have everybody they would want to come. And those fall conferences are so important because, and it's really nice now that we can do the Zoom, so we can sit in our pajamas and take our training, so, and make it super easy. But it's really important for anybody who maybe wants to volunteer, but they're not quite sure and they don't feel completely confident. Bring those volunteers to our fall conference and let us do some training with them. So if you need help convincing somebody that it's really not hard, that's the beauty of the council PTA, is because you've got all these wonderful people on this Jeffco council. So your AEVPs and the rest of the board who are willing to help you, hold your hand, and walk you through how to do something. And if you get yourself in trouble, we will help you unscrew whatever mess has screwed up. So we'll take care of it. So that's really, really important stuff. And the trainings are really important because, again, we're a legal business. Sometimes they specify the number of meetings that we're required to have per year and additional requirements. So that's where it gets a little hairy in there too. So because a lot of PTAs really don't want to have a meeting in December. I know we changed that in Jeffco PTA when I was president, because they said there are a million different activities for our kids in December. I do not have time for a PTA meeting, and we don't have terribly important business to actually have to get through. So again, come to the December meeting and we'll talk about getting people to your PTA meetings as well. So as recruiting those volunteers. But now we have to have a meeting in December and we're all too busy. And then let's look at the end of the year, May. So we've got field day and we've got, all the end of the year performances. And I mean, there is no time for that one. And then in March, do you really need to have one? And then are you going to be in trouble if we have a snow day sometime between November and, February or March, and we have to cancel a PTA meeting at the last meeting. And now we have business that we can't conduct and we're out of compliance as well. So that's another one. You have a potential of, 8 different meetings that you could have per year. Should you specify that you meet every one of those 8 months? No. Continuity is really important so that you're regularly having meetings. People get used to, on Jeffco PTA, we go the 4th Wednesday of every month. So that's when our Jeffco PTA meeting is. So if you really don't have a lot of, content, we'll talk about that at our March meeting so that you can register for. And I, again, highly recommend this. We're going to talk about when we really need to, but offering programs and good content and value of your people's time is going to be really important. So think that through as you start adding that. Now, quorum requirements and meeting notifications. Oh my gosh. If we start looking at all those things, and your secretaries are going to be really important on this one, or your bylaws chair if you have one. So because you're going to be looking at who all is a member, who's on the board, who's legally a member, do we have quorum, can we conduct business? So for the entity, and this is always a problem too for Jeffco PTA for years and years. This is why we offer, usually our best program of the year has traditionally been in March so that we can get people there and they can learn something, but we also need you to help us meet our quorum so that we can actually vote. Like this year, we need to change our bylaws. So we need to update those. So we have to have a meeting. If we didn't meet quorum and couldn't do that, we would need to have another meeting and another meeting and another meeting until we could get our bylaws changed legally. So these are really important. If you don't have 20 people coming to your meetings, again, come to the March meeting. Let's learn how to actually engage your families. So every school should have a minimum of 20. So it's a little bit harder at the council because a lot of you local units don't understand that we do this for you. We do these programs for you to be helpful to you. So do we require you to go? No, but Jeffco PTA also belongs to you. So it's important that you come and vote and participate as well when we do have those voting meetings. Fiscal year definitions. Almost all the PTAs, so in the nation and actually abroad, because we have councils in other countries as well, and regional PTAs as well in other countries. But regardless, most of them align to this fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th. Now, over the years, some of the PTAs chose, we're going to use differing months. So, because we don't really want to start, business in July. So we'll move ourselves to September. We'll move ourselves to August. Now that has become a legal problem because as a lot of you know, if you're really involved at your local unit, we're always reminding you in our newsletter, your AAVPs are reaching out and saying, hey, you're supposed to be filing your 990, your 990 is due, your 990 is due. If you change those dates, so then your due dates for all of the other legal filings with the IRS and Secretary of the State, et cetera, are all different as well. So it's harder for us to help you accurately. We do recommend the July 1st to June 30th. Colorado PT has made a concerted effort over the last many years to try to get people to move that fiscal year so that everybody's in alignment and can help. Other states have tried this too. Some PTAs have just said, nah, we're just going to do it our way. We like it. But then they run into problems and then they traditionally need our help. And sometimes we've ended up having to get legal assistance involved too. So they can be changed, but anytime you're going to change a fiscal year, you do need to coordinate with Colorado PTA to do that because it does your charter of PTA under Colorado PTAs, under national PTA, you impact all of the other upline because you're a chartered organization. So it's important to coordinate. Bylaws versus standing rules. Again, amending rules with membership versus amending the bylaws. This is really important. You have to have 2/3 vote of the members and the voting body present. So to amend those bylaws. So this is really important. When you take a vote on those bylaws too, you need to meet quorum in your meeting. So those are going to be really, really important. And you have to give notice in your bylaws. You have to give 30 days notice, just like we did in our email to you in January that said, oh, register for the February meeting. And here's a link to our bylaws as well. So, and here's the link to the changes. And if you click on that, you see the rationale in the bylaws and why we're making those changes. So you can go through and see those. And again, the asterisk, you don't need to provide a rationale because you're required to make those changes. Now, amendments to standing rules can be adopted by a majority vote of the members present. So this is really important. If we wanted to vote on something here, we have a standing rule that at Spring Fling, we give an award to whoever we think is dressed the cutest. So in the room. So, right. Okay. Now, if that were in our bylaws that we were giving that award at Spring Fling every year, we would be in trouble. So if we forgot to do it or decided we think it's just awful that we would judge somebody by how they look. So instead, we want to give an award based on what they did for the kids in their school. So standing rule, we could sit here and say, okay, well, let's vote on changing that. So in our standing rules, we're just going to change what Spring Fling is all about. And we're going to give the awards based on, scholarships and awards to PTAs and volunteers who have done amazing work. So now we can change what the rules are for our events and activities because it's a majority of those of us who are present in here. So these are really important. Standing rules, they're also procedural, not parliamentary. So, and they cannot conflict with or supersede your bylaws in any way. Bylaws are always your legal document. So that is your most important document of your PTA, your bylaws. And again, here's the difference between bylaws and standing rules. So standing rules are just going to outline the procedures. And we also know most local unit PTAs and a lot of councils, so for that matter, a lot of state PTAs don't have standing rules in place and don't have them written down. That's okay too. So it's really just to outline our procedures. When the Kiffin Award is given, our procedure is that it goes to an individual who's made a difference. We have these stipulations, and the executive board of Jeffco PTA votes on that. Not the whole board. So that's always a surprise. Those are your basic procedural kind of things. We try to keep a lot of that written for each other and then passed down so that we have the historical knowledge, but we don't put everything in our bylaws because again, that's our legal document. Now, here's another one. If it's time to review and submit your bylaws, this is your other reminder. Get the current approved template, please, please, please. So many units make this mistake, and those emails are in the chat. Thank you all for putting that in there. Keep them simple. Don't add excessive language. Don't add excessive positions. You can do that with special committees, special members, special positions, and you can do that at a meeting. So rather than adding it in your bylaws. If you need a copy of your bylaws, again, contact Jeffco PTA or office@copta.org. A set of rules for conducting orderly meetings. That's it. That's what Robert's rules is about. That's it. We're going to consideration of time, one at a time. So everybody isn't just complaining, I've got this and I want to talk about, Angela wants to talk about Spring Fling and I want to talk about bylaws, and Andrew wants to talk about, the library fundraiser, and Lori wants to talk about health and wellness, and we all just want to jump in at the same time. If we follow the processes, that way everybody can be heard at the meeting. So the president, along with the board, puts together that agenda for your meeting so you know what's going to happen at that meeting. And we go through each item. So, and then we have new business at the end. If I completely forgot to send Amy, so what I wanted to talk about at this meeting, I have to wait until new business. Even though I want to interrupt on a regular basis, and it's really hard for people who are extroverted to, wait, but you have to wait for new business because it isn't on our agenda. Or I can ask to add it at the very beginning of the meeting when we approve the agenda for our meeting. I can ask to add it in there and everybody can vote to approve it. That'll be fine. It gives everyone an opportunity for input. And again, we've got that majority rule. You're going to have people who don't agree with what you're doing in your PTA or who get mad. So use Robert's rules so that we can stay calm, You can use Amy's, yoga focus. So to namaste. So, and then the secretary, make sure that she's got or he's got the historical records, historical documents for the association. You always want to make sure that that secretary has a copy of the bylaws with them. So no matter where you are, if you're conducting business, so that if there are questions, we can move to our bylaws and say, our bylaws say this. So we need to conduct our meeting in this way. All the documents and minutes of the units should be maintained and accurate. So the secretary keeps a copy of those. So the records retention information under local unit resources on the jcpta.org website. There is one link up there that is for records retention. Those are IRS requirements. PTA did not just decide to say, you have to have these documents forever and you have to have these documents forever. We didn't decide that. The IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, decided that. And none of us want to go to jail. So, and IRS takes their job far more seriously, I think, than a lot of people think that it is. So please look through those record retention and how long you keep all of your documents for. Now, appointing positions and committees in your bylaws and stuff, to think about the fiscal policies that you have for PTA funds. You have to pay for insurance, leadership development and training. So this is, you have to be able to pay for that and offer that in some way. Again, love Jeffco PTA for making sure that you can all get that training for free every single year. Programs, assemblies, if you have something that you definitely want to do. Recognition awards for student achievement. The reflections program is a really good example of that. A lot of the units do give the ribbons or medals or those kind of things. So you want to make sure that everything that you're doing as you're appointing things, I don't come up with a completely new position and oh goodness. So I come up with an event that is, I want to build a science lab at my school. And I didn't talk to, and this is a real story. I didn't talk to my principal and tell them that we're building a science lab. I didn't talk to the school district that we're, making changes to the building to build a science lab. But I am creating this big event where we're going to raise funds and we're going to put together a science lab for this school, even though it's not our building and we have no permission for it. And it's not in our budget and it wasn't approved. So, but these kind of things have happened in the past. Curriculum enhancement, equipment, after school programs. I cannot fund employees of the school district, and you should not be funding extra paras or anything like that. It does put a disadvantage, diversity and inclusivity, and think back to our PTA values in there again too. If I'm in a wealthy school up here in Northwest Arvada and I can afford 10 extra paras for the year, and over at Jefferson High School, their PTA does no fundraising whatsoever, or doesn't have a PTA, and they can't raise those funds. Think about the inequities that we have created in that situation. And that's not what we're meant to be. We're not, the bake sale moms, and we are not the fundraising moms. We do it and we do incredible things for our schools. And I was also the fundraising chair, so I get it. But think through when you're appointing those committees and positions, because it's just crucial that we make it clear. And we are not, you don't have to be the big, huge, gigantic fundraising people. What is your mission? What do you want to focus on? We're going to talk about that at our March general meeting for Jeffco PTA as well too. So what our mission is, how we make plans, how we set priorities for the year, and what we do to attract people to our PTA. That's all part of that in there too. Keep a copy of the bylaws, read them. Now, one of the things we've done with Jeffco PTA is we have a bylaws Google Drive, so that I can put these things in there and they'll live there forever. When I get hit by a truck or go away, finally. So that drive can be given to the next person and it can just keep going. You can do it on a flash drive. You have to kind of watch some of those documents, because as we move to our digital world, of course, we're all kind of holding our files in a online space somewhere, or flash drive. So a lot of the flash drives that we used to have things on are no longer compatible with today's laptops. So we've run into little problems of those kind of things over the years. Now, the IRS is not going to get mad at you if you can't comply with records retention because I have this flash drive, but it's corrupted or got dropped into a puddle of milk, or the kids stepped on it in the car, you know, during a winter snowstorm, and suddenly it doesn't work. They're not here to, you know, to cause problems for you. They're just here to try to protect you. So we just document all those kind of things. So if, you know, the kids did spill chocolate milk or, you know, stepped on a flash drive and destroyed PTA property at some point, document it in your minutes at some point. Google Drive is really, really lovely for all your different officers, because when you are done, you have something to hand off to the next person. Before Google Drive was a thing, we did use those flash drives and handed things off. I've been around for a really long time. Before the flash drives were a thing, we actually had a PTA laptop that we handed down so to the next group who was doing things. So I actually ended up with a laptop at one point that it was much older than my child. And
That
even
still exists. We still
Yeah.
own that.
yeah, so probably about time to erase it and recycle, right? So anyway, read them. Please, please, please make sure that you read those bylaws. It is so very crucial. Know when they need to be updated. So again, knowing that you can update every year if you really wanted to, if something isn't working for you. And if you're not in legal compliance with those bylaws, let's take a look at those. And figure out how we can do it. And if you don't know what happened to the past volunteers to your PTA, chances are Jeffco PTA works really, really hard to make sure that the past volunteers give us copies of all those things, so that when you're coming in new, the other people have dropped off the face of the earth and won't respond to you. We have copies of those documents so we can say, yeah, I have a copy of those bylaws. Here you go. So, and you can start off with this so you're not starting from ground zero all the time. That is the end of it, except for your questions, should you have any. Again, I am the bylaws chair, so I'm happy to help you. Your AEVPs here can help you. We have a ton of really wonderful people here at Jeffco PTA and at Colorado PTA. We're always happy to help you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Victoria. I'll go over next.
Sorry. And the only reason I have my camera off is that I've been like eating and I'm paranoid I have like food on me.
It's all
I had
good.
a quick question about, okay, going back to like the special committees, right? Because we all know, right? We just need that flexibility, right?
Right.
Depending on like where we're ebbing, flowing. So is what you're saying, tell me if I'm wrong, that, you know, as long as really we have it in the meeting minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like then like, great, that's a thing. And
Yeah.
that's how we should just have it recorded.
Yeah, instead of having a
Okay.
standing committee, let's say we have the reading incentives program, and instead of putting the reading incentives program in the standing committees and requiring a chair and all of those kind of things, instead the board can just say, you know, we're voting, you know, we voted to appoint Victoria is going to do reading incentives for the year. So she's volunteered to do it and has the time, and we have the resources. So you're just putting it in the minutes and you're good to go.
Okay, perfect. Because that's what we've been doing. So I just wanted to confirm.
Absolutely.
And then I have a totally separate, we have an ongoing question from EMS that the para situation. Now,
Yeah.
I had asked this in my fall training, right?
Okay.
And I had brought back that information saying, well, there was a resounding no, because what we face is that our admin and counseling team have to do the lunch recess duties. And
Right.
it's just, it is such a predicament, right?
Right.
So at the time I was like, okay, I know another nearby school had used funds and everyone was like, no. But
Yeah.
then over time, it keeps coming up, right? And I'm like, well, but my understanding, so is it just Jeffco? And someone was like, well, you need to ask Colorado PTA. I was like, well, but
I can tell
think
you,
it's
Victoria,
different.
the answer
Yeah.
all the way up to national PTA, and I was an
Yeah.
actual employee of national
Ah.
PTA, is absolutely not. Do we have
Okay.
PTAs who are doing it wrong? Absolutely, there are PTAs who are doing it wrong. When
Okay.
they get caught, they will have problems. So because you legally
Okay.
cannot do that. It ends up, the PTA also ends up being an employer. And if somebody ends up getting hurt,
Right.
the PTA is also liable for that. So if you have
Yeah.
participating in funding that. So think back to, this is something I used to have to remind my principal on a regular basis too, because I was a really good fundraiser, even though we're not just a fundraising organization, we're a child advocacy organization. And he really liked the money that I could bring in for that. And on a regular basis, he'd say, oh, can you fund this? Can you fund this? Can you fund this? And we had to stop and, stop and go through what our financial responsibilities were as PTA, what we could fund that was related to the benefit of all students reaching their potential.
Okay.
It isn't a staff member. So what actually benefits kids? There's a whole bunch of things in a school budget that the principal can divert and ask the PTA to assist with rather than funding staff.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it, is that we need to continue to just look at that path and say like, okay,
Yeah.
man, we know you are working your tail off with declining enrollment, but like,
Yes.
we're here to support and help figure
and
some
it
of
is
that out,
not
maybe.
just your, I can promise you right now, it is not just your school. There's
I
lots
know.
of other schools that are in the exact same position.
Yeah.
Most of the schools that are trying to fund staff members until they get caught. The ones that are doing that, they're almost always wealthy schools. So the disparity and equity problems that it creates are just terrible. Not to mention the fact that, we've had, at national level, we've had PTAs get sued when a staff member gets injured and, or something happens, and then, or the staff member didn't do something per policy and the staff member gets fired and the staff member decides to sue both the PTA and the school. Those happen all the time. So don't get involved in that. So go back to what your purpose is.
Thank you for that. Sorry,
Victoria
Andrea.
and Shauna.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge that this is coming up a lot lately because it was like 2 years ago at a principals meeting before the school year started that the principals were told to talk to your PTA about taking on this portion of your budget.
Oh,
And an email went to Shauna like, hey, is this
okay.
true? And she included me in the reply, that categorically the answer is no. But even though that information was then taken back to the principals, all they remember is they were told in a meeting to ask your PTA.
Okay, that definitely helps to understand the backstory too.
This is a really important one. Running your PTA, go to the bottom over here. There's records retention I talked about. The PTA principal handbook. Look at this. You can download the PTA principal handbook and whoops, what is going on there? Well, I can't get to that right now. But anyway, so I'll go and make sure I fix that because I'm doing the website too. But the PTA principal handbook is just crucial for making sure that you hand that out to your principal and tell them, we don't do that. So here's what, here's what the PTA is about. Those are just really crucial resources to start explaining to them. And if that's what has happened, I know when I was president, one of the first emails I sent, and I sent it out to all PTA schools, and I had the AAVPs get the email for their principals. And I sent out the email to the principal's handbook so that they all had a copy of it. So it was attached and sitting right there. So that's a crucial resource to give to them, but I'll go make sure that link is fixed to y'all.
Andrea, go ahead.
Thank you. Just on that point, is there like a disclaimer or something that the PTA can sign saying, hey, if we support this para for this, after school or, recess program, and it's like a 20-page legally binding disclaimer? No, there's no.
No,
Okay.
because you are then in violation of your charter with Colorado PTA and National PTA. So if you get caught doing it, National PTA can revoke your status. So, and you will no longer be a PTA. National PTA is a lot more aggressive. They have actually revoked charters of some states that did not follow the PTA program. And because it impacts all of us, on an IRS level. They have revoked states in the past that did not adhere. And they have taken PTA charters away and they have a lot more legal power. And they have actually taken the funds from PTA and prosecuted officers of the PTA who didn't follow the charter.
Okay. Thank you. That was just a follow-on question to Victoria's. That wasn't what I was originally going to ask. But
go ahead. We're here for all kinds of it.
One of your original slides titled Common Issues says the typical term limit is 2 years for an executive member of the PTA. Can you just elaborate or let me know a little bit more about why it's so short? So for example, at our school, we have the president of the PTA has a 3rd grader and also a preschooler. So quite a wide range for an elementary school. You know, she will be there for like 8 years or something. What is the downside, or what's the kind of like, why would you advise against
So
this?
2-year term is kind of that average because you're kind of learning their first year and then things are really flowing really nicely for the second year. Now you can do multiple terms and you can define in your bylaws how many terms that people are going to serve. If you start doing like 3-year terms or 4-year terms, you get people who start leaving or quitting before the end of their term. Because I'm going to tell you again, so when you hit that 4-year mark, if you've done PTA the right way, you're exhausted by the end of 4 years. You just are. And so it's good for new blood too, to move things around. So, you know, I can do 2-year, you know, 2 terms of 2 years as president. But maybe the next year I can still serve on the board, but I'm going to be the treasurer, or I'm going to be the secretary. So, or I'm going to be the, you know, the vice president and just back the, you know, new president up. So it's just for that continuity again too, because if you have the same person who ends up taking 8 years of a, you know, term in one position, you don't have continuity. When that person leaves, the PTA often flounders. And you almost, you know, you get into the bad mom situation. I've been here for 12 years. So, and you know, it's my PTA. And you really want to make sure that it's always, I don't own the PTA, right? So I love the PTA. So absolutely love the PTA. But when I was done with my term, it was Kay's turn to take it on. So, and I just went away and disappeared and stayed away from PTA for a couple of years. We don't want people to know, you know, it's Kay, you know, it's her turn, it's her time. And, you know, and Kay's still here to help, and I'm still here to help, you know, Amy, but I'm not here to tell her, I don't like how you're doing it, Amy, and you have to change all of these things. I don't like what you do. So, and you end up with somebody who's doing it for that long of a term, they become very proprietary, or it's a personal attack if you come in and change how we do the silent auction or how we did scholarships. So, and you know, people who have been around for a while say, well, this is the way we've always done it. So, and don't you hate it when somebody tells you that too, especially when you say, well, great. So, but now we have computers and we don't have to take minutes by hand. You know, it's those kind of things. And it's growth of the organization. So you can recycle yourself back into it. You're just not going to serve more than 2 terms. You can make it 3, but I will tell you, for both your treasurer and your secretary, if they did 2 3-year terms, 6 years, by the end of that, I'm telling you, you're exhausted. If you've PTA'd correctly, by the end of 4 years, give yourself a little break and either take the break or, you know, find your replacements, take your break, and be able to step away so you don't say, the case says that too. And you'll never want to PTA again after that long. Yes, exactly. So, and you've got kids once you start off in elementary, and I am one of those like super involved parents. So I got really, really, really involved. So, you know, by the end of 6th grade, now it is definitely time for me to take a break. So we go to middle school for 2 years. And I said, I need a break. So, and at that point I said, you know what, I will run, parent teacher conferences, the staff appreciation stuff. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll come to the meetings and I don't want to say anything. I don't want to run anything. I'll do that for the staff. And that was my one activity for the year. And then when I got back into high school, you know, suddenly I was treasurer. So, because we didn't have a treasurer and I knew how to do the job. But giving yourself that little break, because it's a lot to get yourself through, you know, multiple years. For one kid, if you go PK to 12, you know, you're looking at least 13 years, could be 14 years. And then if you have multiple kids, you could be in a school for, you know, poor Kay's got 5 kids. So, you know, look how long she is in school, you know, volunteering. You're exhausted and you don't need to put yourself through that. So, oh, there we go. She says since 2007. My daughter was 3 in 2007. So,
Can I just say one thing?
yeah.
When you get tired of volunteering at your school, you
Yeah.
know, or you're ready to move on from your school, you can come to Jeffco PTA. We're
Right,
always looking
exactly.
for new people. We
We'd
need
love
you.
to have you.
Yes, we'd love to have you.
Yeah. So, and Darcy put in there too, you know, some of the schools have put in those 1-year terms. At the national PTA level, we actually advise against that again and do the staggered terms instead and do 2 years. You can still resign after you've done a year. So that's why it says in the documentation, it was specifically put into the documentation, your bylaws, that it is considered that you have served your term if you've made it over a fiscal year. So that's fine. And that's put in there kind of for middle schools because it's usually like the 6, 7, 8 or, 2-year schools. But National PTA does advise that you try to do at least a 2-year term. Anybody can quit at any time, and then you appoint the position. Your bylaws specify how you do that appointment. So that's really important. If you look at my term during Jeffco PTA too, I had a couple people who finally said, because I'm a go person, maybe I'm too much for them. I don't know what it was. So, and I talked to all these wonderful people into doing it. So I told Kay and Jen, Jen, you have to be vice president of membership, and Kay, you have to be our secretary. So here we go. Just reeled you in, for a little bit more. So yes, I'm sorry you did get reeled in. But it's important for that continuity. So, because we're all still around here for a really, really long time. And we want to make sure that our core goes back to our mission all the time and not about who's president. It could be anybody here. So, and again, I will tell you, there's lots of different roles you can fulfill in Jeffco PTA. And I found them when my daughter was in first grade. No, kindergarten is when I first met them. And I joined Jeffco PTA at that point, and I was doing my local unit. So I've been doing this for a really long time. But I will tell you the things that I learned by being on both. And I was able to manage it because I made specific choices about what I did. But the things I learned from Jeffco PTA and Colorado PTA that benefited my local unit were just crucial. So in our PTA over at Hackberry Hill, we actually tripled in membership when I started doing that. So, and started doing the tables, and then I made sure that we had both GT parents and our, regular ed classroom parents, so that everybody had representation. So when we started implementing a lot of those programs, the benefits, because I learned and took the time, were just phenomenal. So it is absolutely worth your time. But don't overdo yourself either, and learn something for yourself. Make sure it's also for you. So you're not in PTA to, be put in your deathbed. So it should be about your kids, having some fun. There's absolutely work and time involved, but it's worth it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, that is all. I'm going to end the recording here if there are no other questions.